Well, I agree that the United States is now under growing pressure. That is, after the MOU, I think the U.S. wanted to try to squeeze some more out of the deal, and they went back to a bombing campaign. I think it was quite foolish. There was, the battlefield hadn't changed in any ways. The U.S. didn't have any better weapons. There was no reason why it would go better this time around. I do think that as the weapons are depleted, the situation looks worse, and the Iranians, of course, can escalate their demands. There's a pressure on the United States to make some kind of painful concessions, and I think there's a growing recognition that there's nothing they can do about the Strait of Hormuz. But that doesn't mean that they're stuck in this position. That from now on, they will put total demands on anyone who wants to pass through the strait, because their wider security concern is how the Middle East has been shaped. Again, it's one big alliance system where the US is pushing everyone against Iran. If you can get to the root of the problem, that is, find a way of having a regional security architecture that accommodates Iranian security concerns, then all these other issues could be negotiated, except for the Strait of Hormuz, of course. Well, I guess they all have different interests for this, but in terms of an attack on one should be considered an attack on all. Like NATO has the same Article 5, but it doesn't. It says yes, an attack on one should be considered an attack on all, but it doesn't mean it obligates everyone to retaliate. If you're attacked, you don't have to respond at all. For example, in NATO's Article 5, it's very explicit. Yes, it should be considered an attack on all, but countries can decide how they want to respond, including the use of force. But that's not it's not an obligation. So again, it doesn't mean that Pakistan is going to go fighting for Saudi security. Again, I think they have different interests. I guess get a proper position in whatever new security architecture that's developing in the region. Ideally, you would want to see Iran being included into something like this, though, not as an alliance against someone, but overall, you want a collective security architecture, one which seeks security with other members, not against non-members. So that's would be a positive sum approach to security. We're not quite there yet, but no, is it aimed against Iran? I think it's too early to say, to be honest. But this is a problem of the hegemon. I mean, again, I'm not sure why Hitler kept on going. I think once you have once you're in the role, once you're succeeding, your hubris catches you. So, and I think is as a similar problem with a hegemon. You can do anything you want, and you will have immediately you'll have a big political class with some god complex that they can transform the world. Also, there will be less strategic thinking because your strategy is often about priorities. What to do with the limited resources, where to use them. If your strategy is that of global primacy, you can be everywhere at the same time. Everything is a priority. So strategic thinking falls a bit in the back. Also, making mistakes. A hegemon or empire can afford to make a lot of mistakes because it can absorb the cost. So, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of these things, we can absorb the cost, but eventually it becomes too much. And so I think a lot of these problems is something that's been building up. Oh, yeah. I think we should retreat to a quiet corner of the world and sit this one out because, well, it's going to be very messy. But overall, in international relations, what you want is slow incremental changes because whenever there's a huge shift in power, it's too disruptive to the international system. Also, you have a political class which needs time to adjust. And I often make the point, not to defend. I don't care much for the European leaders, but in their defense, look at the rhetoric, look at the academia and all that existed from the 1990s. Oh, it's a liberal hegemon. We're essentially going to transform the world. We're done with great power politics and conflicts and wars. from now on we're just going to elevate liberal democracy and human rights, and the world will, move away from that old order of conflict, and all of it has to be done under the collective hegemony of the West. So it's a benign hegemony, will dominate everywhere, but yes, it will benefit all of humanity. Anyone who opposes it obviously hates democracy, and they had a mission, and then you go from this to the Europeans no longer even having a role in the new world. It's a big drop, and it's very difficult for politicians to adjust to this. Well, it depends. Whenever you have this, intelligence assessments, that's usually how propaganda pieces start. So it could be propaganda that is elevate the Russian threat, so everyone will commit more to this war on Russia. But again, one would ask why. Well, what is the purpose behind this? It's not impossible, because I do think that the top priority now for Russia in terms of its relations with NATO is to restore its deterrence. It has allowed NATO to take unacceptable steps. The fact that I think it was Politico who wrote yesterday that the Trump is now, his administration is deepening the intelligence sharing in terms of doing deep strikes into Russia. So, think about that. Imagine that happened during the Cold War. Now the United States is supplying the weapons. It has intelligence where to strike. It's sending contractors over even to firing off the weapons. I mean, the United States is now attacking inside Russia, striking not even military targets, commercial targets as well. You have British media saying, well, openly the objective is to make Russians feel the war as well. So civil society in Russia should feel the war. So hopefully they will put pressure on the government. This is close to this is the definition of terrorism, when you use violence against a civilian population to inflict a sense of fear and terror for the purpose of achieving political goals. So it's quite extreme where we're going, and this, So if you were in Russia, what would you conclude? That there's no fear anymore in the West. They have to learn how to fear Russia again, because if there is no deterrence, why wouldn't they continue striking inside Russia?